All right, today we're putting together a survival guide for what has to be one of the most thrilling and, let's be honest, dangerous journeys out there, launching a startup. We're going to deconstruct the very blueprint for success by digging into the hard data on why some ventures just take off and why so many others crash and burn.
First things first, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. The numbers are pretty intense. Around 90% of all startups will ultimately fail. Yep, you heard that right. 9 out of 10 new businesses just won't make it. Now that's not to scare you, but to really set the stage for how high the stakes are. And that really brings us to the million-dollar question we're tackling today. What's the secret sauce? What separates the tiny fraction that succeeds from the massive majority that fails? Is it a stroke of genius, pure luck, or is there actually a playbook we can follow? Well, let's find out.
You know, to figure out how to win, you first have to understand why people lose. So, we're going to start by performing a kind of autopsy on failure. By dissecting the most common reasons startups die, we can spot the traps before we fall into them.
When you look at the data from CB Insights, the story becomes crystal clear. Yeah, running out of cash is a huge problem, and having the wrong people on the bus is tough. But look at that biggest slice. A whopping 42% of startups fail for one simple reason. They made something nobody wanted. It is by far the #1 killer.
It really is that simple. The single greatest destroyer of dreams and capital is pouring your heart, soul, and money into building a solution to a problem that nobody actually has. Or maybe a problem they have but just don't care enough to pay to solve. It's the classic solution looking for a problem.
And if you want a poster child for this exact mistake, look no further than Juicero. Oh man, this company was the talk of Silicon Valley. They raised over $120 million for this super sleek, Wi-Fi-enabled juicing machine. The whole pitch was about effortless, high-quality juice, and investors couldn't get enough of it.
And then this happened. This one sentence in a Bloomberg article brought the entire company to its knees. It turns out that their $700 machine was completely pointless. You could get the exact same juice, sometimes even faster, just by squeezing their pre-packaged pouches with your own 2 hands. No joke.
So in the end, Juicero's failure wasn't about bad technology. The machine was actually an engineering marvel. It was a failure of purpose. It was a beautiful, expensive, incredibly over-engineered solution to a problem nobody, and I mean nobody, actually had. A textbook case of no market need. Okay, that's enough of the doom and gloom. If we know what the diseases are, then what are the cures? Let's flip the script. This section is all about the proven, actionable strategies that successful startups use as an antidote to those deadly pitfalls.
The #1 cure for building something nobody wants is what we call the minimum viable product, or MVP. Now, this isn't about making a cheap or crappy version of your idea. Not at all. Think of it as a science experiment. The goal is to build the absolute smallest, simplest thing you can to find out if anyone actually cares about what you're doing.
And this MVP is the engine of a process called the Lean Startup methodology. It's a simple, powerful loop. First, you build a small experiment, your MVP, to test a core assumption. Then you measure how real people actually behave, not what they say they'll do. And finally, you learn from that real-world data to decide, do we keep going or do we change course?
You want a perfect example of this in action? Dropbox. Before they wrote a single line of the super complex code needed for file syncing, the founder just made a simple 3-minute video that demonstrated how the product would work. That's it. That video went viral and their sign-up lift exploded from 5,000 people to 75,000 people literally overnight. They proved people wanted it before they built it.
Okay, now let's tackle that second biggest killer, running out of cash. The antidote here is all about mastering your unit economics. The first piece of that puzzle is your customer acquisition cost, or CAC. It's a simple question. When you add up all your sales and marketing costs, how much does it cost you to get one single new customer in the door?
And the other side of that coin is lifetime value, or LTV. So if CAC is what you spend to get a customer, LTV is what that customer is actually worth to you. It's the total profit, and I stress profit, not revenue, that you expect to make from them over their entire relationship with your company.
And right here, this is the golden rule. This is like the law of gravity for a sustainable business. Your lifetime value has to be a lot bigger than your customer acquisition cost. The benchmark that smart investors look for is a 3-to-1 ratio. Your LTV should be at least 3 times your CAC. If that math doesn't work, your business is literally burning cash with every new customer you sign.
So what happens when your MVP data comes back and tells you your big idea is a dud? Or when you realize your LTV to CAC ratio is completely broken? You pivot. And a pivot isn't failure. It's not giving up. It's a smart, strategic change in direction based on what you've learned from the real world.
I mean, think about Instagram. It didn't start as Instagram. It started as a messy, complicated check-in app called Bourbon. It was failing. But the founders noticed that out of all the features nobody was using, people really, really loved the photo sharing part. So they made a gutsy call, they threw everything else away, focused only on photos, and, well, Instagram was born.
And then there's Slack. This one is just wild. The company was actually a gaming startup called Tiny Speck, and their game flopped. But to build the game, their team had created this amazing internal tool to help them communicate. They realized the tool they built for themselves was way more valuable than the game they were trying to sell. So they shut the game down and sold the tool instead. That tool became Slack.
Okay, let's bring this all home. We're going to pull all these lessons together into a simple, practical checklist. Think of this as your strategic compass for your own journey, a way to keep yourself on the right path. Here it is. Just look at this and be honest with yourself. Are you constantly talking about new features instead of what your customers are actually struggling with? That's a huge warning sign for no market need, and the prevention is to build an MVP. Are you hiring a huge team before you've got real, repeatable sales? That's premature scaling. Is your LTV lower than your CAC? That's flawed economics. This chart connects the disease to the symptom to the cure.
Look, if you remember just one thing from all this, let it be this. Startup success isn't about having a eureka moment with a perfect idea right from the start. It's about having a rigorous process for testing, learning, and adapting your way through the constant uncertainty. It's a marathon of learning, not a sprint of genius.
And that leads to this one final, powerful idea. We talk a lot about being resilient, right? Bouncing back when you get hit. And that's great. But the real goal is to be antifragile. That means you're set up in such a way that shocks, failures, and negative feedback don't just bounce off you, they actually make you stronger and smarter.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. Based on everything we've just covered, from dodging the Juicero trap to mastering your economics and learning how to pivot, how are you going to build your venture not just to survive the hits, but to actually get stronger from them? How will you make it anti-fragile?
Rise up, rise high. Let your spirit take flight. Chase the stars, never back down from the fight. We're warriors inside, fueled by fire and light. Believe in your power, we're born to ignite.